Hey folks, Jessie here from Onion Grass Food Forest. Yes, I did change the name. We'll get to that in a minute, but first I want to talk to you about a design concept I have for the food forest. This year, I'd like to create a couple of annual beds. Most of my beds in the past have been focused on perennials, which many still will be. If you're unfamiliar, perennials are the plants that keep coming back year after year, things like apple trees and blueberry bushes, strawberries, that sort of thing. But I wanted to create an annual bed, and my focus on that bed is going to be kind of themed around grains and seeds we can eat. So let's get to it. The purpose of these beds is going to be, in particular, growing grains and seeds that I can put into baked goods. So I'm doing a lot of baking of our own breads and biscuits and muffins and crackers and things of that nature. And eating whole grains and seeds that still have maybe small husks still on them is actually really important for the diet. So I thought I'd dedicate a bed, or maybe two, we'll see how it goes, towards growing those things. Foods like amaranth, flax, poppy seeds, sesame seeds. So we're going to take a look at that. So here's kind of the general design concept. This is me just kind of brainstorming on paper. The grains and or seeds for breads, crackers, and whatnot that I'm hoping to include are amaranth, sesame seeds, poppy seeds, sorghum. I did mark sunflowers, but as I'll explain in a minute, we're not going to get anything from those. And the idea is just to start growing some of our own grains that we can throw into our baked goods, but also this is kind of a test garden. So I don't know how amaranth is going to do here. I do know there's locals that grow sorghum and also create sorghum syrup from the stalks. So I know that this will be successful in our area, but a lot of these others I'm not really sure. So this is this is a test garden, really. Also, I don't have a lot of sorghum seeds. So in doing this, I'm going to be able to propagate more sorghum seeds so that if it is successful, then I can make a patch of it in the future, because this can be ground for flour, which is something I'm interested in looking into. We can grow sorghum here, we can grow corn. It's too wet for wheat and probably too wet for barley, but sorghum we can probably pull off. You'll notice I included sunflowers in this mix. Sunflowers, actually, the more I garden with them, the less I like them. They do their thing and then they just kind of die off and look like they should be a prop on a horror movie set. But not everything that I'm growing is for me. First of all, you might say, well, Jess, you can get seeds off of that to put in your breads and your biscuits and your muffins and whatever. Yeah, we will never ever see one of those sunflower seeds. Last year, the finches stripped every single sunflower of its seeds before they were ever even ripe. So I don't expect to see any of those unless I do a really big patch. However, that said, first of all, I don't mind feeding the local finches, but second of all, there's a particular bee that I'm trying to help. And last year I noticed it was all over the sunflowers. We have a native bee here that's about the size of a housefly and is iridescent green. I don't know what it is, but it's a native pollinator. It's not a honeybee, it's a native bee. And those bees loved the sunflowers. I do have some footage of them, but it was really difficult for me to capture that iridescent look that they had on my phone as the camera. Hopefully this year I'll not only get a better camera, but I'll get better footage. But I really want to help support the local native bees. And so I will be including sunflowers in these beds, if only just for them. One of my goals this year is also to include something in each guild, which isn't for us. It isn't for me. It isn't anything that we're going to eat. It just supports local wildlife and pollinators and that sort of thing. So that is why I'll be including the chocolate sunflowers. And if you're wondering why I chose chocolate sunflowers, I got a package of about 200 seeds for like 99 cents. So I have a ton of these things, and we're going to use what we have. As I was designing this, I started throwing in a few of these spices just as kind of filler, and then I realized as I put in dill and cilantro and mustard that those are all pickling spices. Those are also seeds that we can grow for our food, and I do want to produce my own homemade pickles. So then I thought, why not on the south side maybe put in a few cayenne pepper, which are also used in the making of pickles. So this is a really good case of stacking functions. If you're not familiar with the concept of stacking functions in permaculture, it's when one thing has multiple functions. So let's just kind of think about the cilantro and possibly the dill here, right? Both of these plants, you can use the spices from the leaves, right? You can use dill leaves and cilantro leaves both. With dill, you can also use the flowers as a pickling spice. Well, then each of these plants goes to seed. When they go to seed, you can also use the seeds as spices. And also the flowers of both of these attract the predator insects that eat the types of insects that destroy your crops, things like aphids. So with these, we have multiple functions in that stacking functions. So including both the cilantro and dill and possibly mustard, I can grow my own pickling spices and still cover several other functions within this guild. I will also grow cosmos for the rest of my days because of bumblebees. When we're talking about supporting local pollinators, last year when I grew my cosmos, I had particularly orange and yellow cosmos that got about 6 feet tall, and they were enormous flowering plants. In the morning, I could take my cup of tea, walk out into the yard, and there were always bumblebees asleep in my cosmos, and I will grow them for the rest of my days, if only just to see the precious bumblebees asleep in the cosmos. But aside from that, the local pollinators do love them, and they flower for a really long time. They just keep the blossoms coming. So I am including those as well in the plans for these guilds, just for the pollinators and for my own joy of seeing them sleeping in the flowers in the mornings.
Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. That'd be super cool.
I want to take a moment to literally zoom in on these Mexican sunflowers. These were absolutely wonderful last year. I only grew a few, but I'm going to grow a lot more this year if possible. My main reason, besides that they were lovely tall flowers and attracted pollinators as you would expect, they specifically attracted a moth called a cloudless sulfur. And I'll put a picture of them up on the screen. And this particular moth came late in the season when a lot of other flowers were done blooming, but the Mexican sunflowers were still in bloom. So it was able to provide a food source for those moths. And I will be including them not only just because they're fantastic flowers, but specifically to help support that particular moth in our area. Of course, there are a few plants in here that don't really fulfill any of the things we've talked about. They're not a grain, they're not a pollinator attractor necessarily. For example, the tree spinach, that's simply a green that we can use in salads. The giant asters I'm including just because I want to. I bought a mixed pack of asters, did not realize that they were giant when I ordered them, and got the pack, and it's a mixed pack. Purple is one of the possible colors, but I just wanted to include those just as sort of something bushy so we're not seeing a whole bunch of stems from things. So that's that. Foxglove, yet another feature here for the pollinators, but I wanted really to make this whole thing not only kind of a test garden, but also a beautiful place. So I'm trying to mix both functionalities with beauty. So we'll see if it works. We're going to try this year and we'll see what happens. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you've got any suggestions for the design or other things I could include. Let me know in the comments below. Few quick notes about the channel. As you may have noticed, I changed the name from Onion Grass Gardens to Onion Grass Food Forests. That's because I really want to focus in on the concept of the food forest. I want to bring you along on the journey of building the food forest so you can see the successes, the failures, the struggles, and all of that. The whole process really is what I want to bring you along for, but also to supply encouragement to other people who might be doing the same thing. But also, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you about what you would like to see from the channel, what you've enjoyed the most, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. But please definitely put that in the comments below because I'd really like to hear from you. And as always, thank you for being here and liking and subscribing. I appreciate every single one of you.